Chosen one. Everything just flipped overnight and somebody with serious power is going absolutely nuclear to protect you. The cosmic scales that seemed permanently rigged against your favor just shifted with earthquake force, and your enemies are waking up to a reality where someone they never saw coming is wielding authority that makes their schemes look like child's play, someone who doesn't just have your back, but has the kind of influence that can reshape entire narratives with a single word and make powerful people scramble for cover when your name gets mentioned. The phone started ringing early. Not your phone. Emergency calls crackling with panic. Desperate voices trying to coordinate damage control for a situation that's already spiraled beyond manipulation. Your former tormentors scramble like roaches when the kitchen lights come on, scurrying to cover tracks assumed buried forever. But here's what was never understood about authentic power. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It simply shows up and rearranges reality. Your defender isn't some random champion of justice or emotional supporter posting paragraphs on social media. This is someone who commands respect when speaking, whose words land with the force of divine decree, whose influence spans networks your enemies thought controlled. Your protector didn't just stumble into your story, positioned there by forces operating on frequencies your tormentors can't even perceive. The beautiful brutality of this moment lies in its perfect timing. The truth didn't surface when you were broken and desperate, when your voice shook with pain and doubt clouded your vision. It emerged when your enemies felt most secure, most arrogant, most convinced the false version of events had become permanent reality. Monuments were being built to lies while standing on foundations of quicksand, parties thrown on ground already shifting beneath feet. Something fundamental shifted in the cosmic order overnight, and your enemies can feel it in bones. The same energy once used to attack your character is now turning against the attackers like a boomerang loaded with divine justice. Power dynamics were thought understood, influence believed to mean controlling narratives through volume and repetition. Your silence was mistaken for surrender, your dignity for defeat, your strategic withdrawal for weakness. But authentic power operates on frequencies impossible to jam. Chosen one. While toxic theater was being performed, you were building something unshakable within yourself. Your character was being forged in fires lit but uncontrolled by attackers, emerging stronger and more refined with each pathetic attempt to break your spirit. Every moment of your endurance was testimony to strength that couldn't be purchased or replicated. Your defender sees what was missed entirely. Your quietness wasn't compliance, it was preparation for this very moment. Your refusal to engage in drama wasn't fear, it was wisdom recognizing that some battles are won by not fighting on enemy terms. While destruction was being pursued with exhausting intensity, you were building connections with forces invisible and incomprehensible to attackers. The fear rippling through networks isn't remorse, it's recognition. You're finally being seen clearly, perhaps for the first time, and the reality terrifies former tormentors. You're not the broken victim needed to justify behavior. You're not the weak link convinced in minds. You're the one who walked through manufactured hell and emerged holding flames that can incinerate everything built on deception. This defender of yours operates with surgical precision they can't counter. Every manipulation tactic they mastered over years of practice bounces off this person like bullets off titanium. The charm offensives that once won them allies fall flat against someone who recognizes performance art when they see it. Their tears, whether genuine or manufactured, don't move someone who's witnessed too much authentic suffering to be swayed by theatrical displays. The receipts your defender brings to this confrontation aren't just screenshots and saved messages, they're a complete dossier of behavioral patterns spanning months or years. Voice recordings they didn't know existed, email trails they thought were deleted, witness testimonies from people they assumed would stay silent forever. The evidence isn't just damning, it's comprehensive, painting a picture so vivid that even their most loyal supporters can't maintain plausible deniability. The person speaking up for you isn't some outsider they can dismiss or discredit. This defender is someone your enemies respected, someone whose approval they courted, someone they assumed was safely neutralized or bought off. The horror spreading through their ranks isn't fear of consequences, it's the existential terror of being truly seen by someone they can't manipulate, bribe, or intimidate into silence. Watch them scramble now like insects when their rock gets overturned. Emergency meetings convened in coffee shops and back rooms, anywhere they can gather to assess the damage to their carefully constructed narratives. The same individuals who spent months systematically destroying your reputation now desperately try to protect their own, their arrogance evaporating like morning mist under a blazing sun. Your defender isn't motivated by personal vendetta or emotional attachment to your situation. They're driven by something far more dangerous to those who traffic in lies, an uncompromising commitment to truth that burns through deception like acid through tissue paper. This person doesn't just have influence, they have integrity, and that combination creates a force your enemies have never encountered before. The reverberations spread through their network like wildfire through dry timber. People who once nodded along with their narratives suddenly develop convenient amnesia about their participation. Former allies distance themselves with the speed of politicians abandoning sinking campaigns. The same individuals who laughed at your struggles now refuse to return calls, their silence speaking volumes about their recognition of which way the wind is blowing. Your pain is being transformed into purpose, your suffering into strategy, your endurance into evidence that darkness never wins against authentic light. You weren't just defended, you were activated by heaven itself. Every tear you cried in private was being collected as ammunition for this moment of reckoning. The most beautiful aspect of this transformation lies in its inevitability. This wasn't random chance or lucky timing. This was cosmic justice operating on schedules that transcend human understanding. Your defender stepping forward wasn't coincidence, it was the universe correcting an imbalance that had persisted too long, truth reclaiming its rightful throne from the pretenders who occupied it temporarily. The irony cuts deep and clean as surgical steel. Every weapon they forged against you is now being turned against them with devastating precision. Every screenshot they took to embarrass you now serves as evidence of their obsession. Every lie they spread now demonstrates their commitment to deception. Every attempt to isolate you now reveals their fear of what would happen if you found your voice and platform. Your enemies are discovering that authentic power cannot be defeated by manufactured drama. They threw everything at you: character assassination, social isolation, professional sabotage, emotional manipulation, and you're still standing, not just surviving but thriving in ways that expose their fundamental misunderstanding of what real strength looks like. The same people who enabled your persecution through their cowardly silence now scramble to reposition themselves on the right side of history. Their sudden support isn't moral awakening, it's naked survival instinct. They recognize the shift in power dynamics and adjust their allegiances accordingly, like weather vanes spinning in changing winds. But their fear isn't that they'll face consequences for their actions, it's that they'll be caught still defending the indefensible when the dust settles. This defender speaks about your integrity with the authority that comes from having witnessed it firsthand, under pressure that would have exposed any fraud. They're not just clearing your name, they're establishing your legacy, creating a record that will outlast every lie your enemies ever told about you. The courtroom of public opinion is experiencing a dramatic reversal, with evidence being presented by a prosecutor your enemies can't intimidate, discredit, or silence. This isn't emotional testimony swayed by personal feelings. This is factual presentation, delivered by someone whose reputation for integrity makes their words unassailable. The spiritual warfare that surrounded your life for so long is resolving with the clarity of dawn breaking over a battlefield. But this isn't just personal vindication, chosen one. This is cosmic correction. The universe is reasserting its fundamental laws, demonstrating that truth always rises, that authentic power ultimately dominates manufactured influence, that justice delayed is not justice denied. The silence that once felt like abandonment now reveals itself as preparation time. While they were busy destroying your reputation, you were developing an unshakable character. While they networked to exclude you, you were building connections with forces they couldn't see or understand. While they celebrated what they thought was your defeat, heaven was orchestrating your comeback with precision that makes their schemes look amateur by comparison. Watch them now as their own methods are turned against them with compound interest. The same tactics they used to isolate you are now isolating them. The same lies they spread about your character are now being exposed as projections of their own moral bankruptcy. The same networks they used to attack you are now questioning their judgment, their motives, their credibility. Your defender doesn't just have receipts, they have a complete archive of their behavior, documented and time-stamped, verified and cross-referenced. This isn't amateur hour social media drama, this is professional-grade exposure, conducted by someone who understands how to dismantle reputations built on quicksand. Every carefully constructed lie is being deconstructed with surgical precision. The overnight flip wasn't about changing their minds, it was about revealing what was always true about the power dynamics they thought they controlled. Your worth was never dependent on their recognition. Your strength was never diminished by their attacks. Your destiny was never threatened by their schemes. They were always fighting against forces beyond their comprehension. As this cosmic drama reaches its climax, one truth emerges with crystalline clarity. You were never fighting for basic respect or simple fairness. You were being prepared for something infinitely more significant. Your character was being tested, not to break you, but to prove your readiness for the authority that comes with authentic power. Every trial was actually training, every attack was actually preparation, every moment of isolation was actually incubation. The person defending you now isn't rescuing you, they're recognizing what you've become through the fire. They see the refined gold where your enemies saw only pressure and heat. They understand that your silence wasn't weakness but wisdom, that your endurance wasn't compliance but strength, that your dignity wasn't defeat but dominance operating on frequencies they couldn't perceive. This chosen one's journey never required their validation to reach its destination. Their approval was never the prize you were meant to seek. Your vindication comes not from their recognition, but from the recognition of truth itself, speaking through someone whose voice they can't silence, dismiss, or discredit. The transformation isn't about them finally seeing your value, it's about you stepping into power they never imagined you possessed. The beautiful irony completes itself as those who tried to bury you discover they were actually planting seeds of their own destruction. Every door they closed in your face opened pathways to something better, something they couldn't touch or taint with their presence. Every alliance they formed against you strengthened your connection to forces operating beyond their influence. Your enemies are experiencing the horror of being truly seen, not by you. You've moved beyond the need for their recognition, but by someone whose opinion actually matters in the circles where real decisions get made. The mask isn't just slipping, it's being surgically removed by someone who knows exactly how it was attached and why it was necessary for their deception to work. Standing now in this new reality where your name is being restored in rooms you were never allowed to enter, where your character is being defended by voices that carry actual weight, where your truth is finally being heard by ears that matter, you understand something profound about the nature of chosen ones. The selection wasn't about your perfection, it was about your persistence. The calling wasn't about your initial strength, it was about your willingness to be strengthened through fire. The story that began with you absorbing storms you didn't create concludes with you commanding forces your enemies can't comprehend. The chosen one who once sat in the corner of chaos now stands at the center of a new order where truth reigns supreme and authentic power flows through channels they can't corrupt or control. Your defender stepping forward wasn't the beginning of your vindication. It was the public announcement of a victory that was already secured in spiritual realms. While you felt alone and abandoned, divine forces were arranging protection you couldn't see, preparing vindication you couldn't imagine, orchestrating triumph that would exceed your wildest expectations. The overnight transformation reveals the eternal principle that governs all true power. It doesn't need permission to operate, doesn't require validation to function, doesn't depend on recognition to achieve its objectives. Authentic power simply shows up when the time is right and rearranges reality according to divine blueprints your enemies could never read or understand. This moment marks not the end of your journey, but the beginning of your dominion. The same energy that once seemed to work against you is now flowing in your favor with unstoppable force. The same networks that once excluded you now seek your approval. The same voices that once questioned your character now compete to validate your worth. The chosen one, who once wondered if truth would ever prevail, now knows with unshakable certainty that divine justice operates on schedules that make human timelines irrelevant. The soul who once felt powerless now recognizes the authentic authority that was being forged through every trial, refined through every attack, purified through every moment of seeming defeat. When heaven issues a verdict, hell cannot overrule it. That truth which opened this story now closes it with exponential power. The verdict was never in doubt, only the timing of its public declaration. Your enemies never had the power to define you, defeat you, or destroy what was forged in divine fires. They were always fighting against forces beyond their ability to perceive, comprehend, or counter. The chosen one's path led exactly where it was always meant to go, not to their acceptance, but to your ascension beyond their ability to reach, touch, or taint ever again. The overnight flip was simply the universe making visible what was always true about your destiny, your purpose, and your unshakable position in the cosmic order, where authentic power reigns eternal and divine justice never sleeps. But the protection extending over your life right now goes deeper than surface vindication. Your defender isn't just speaking up, they're systematically dismantling the entire infrastructure your enemies built to contain your influence. Every door they slammed shut is being kicked off its hinges. Every bridge they burned is being rebuilt with materials they can't corrode. Every alliance they formed against you is crumbling under the weight of truth your protector carries like a sword of light. You can sense it happening in real time, the way conversations shift when your name comes up now, the nervous glances exchanged when someone mentions the situation, the sudden reluctance of people who once eagerly participated in your character assassination to even acknowledge they knew what was happening. Your defender's presence in this battle has created a fear so profound that former participants are now claiming ignorance, amnesia, or mysterious absences during the exact moments when your reputation was being shredded. The person protecting you operates with the kind of authority that makes grown adults remember urgent appointments when asked direct questions. They don't just have influence, they wield it like a master craftsman shapes raw material into something beautiful and terrifying. Your enemies are discovering that some voices cannot be bought, bullied, or bargained with. Some people cannot be intimidated into silence or manipulated into compliance. Your protector saw something in you that your tormentors missed entirely. While they were fixated on what they perceived as your vulnerabilities, this guardian recognized the diamond being formed under pressure. They understood that your refusal to retaliate wasn't passivity, it was the kind of restraint that only comes from inner strength, so complete it doesn't need external validation to function. The beautiful terror spreading through your enemy's ranks stems from their realization that your defender isn't operating alone. There's a network behind this protection, connections spanning areas of influence your tormentors never even knew existed. The person speaking for you has access to rooms where real power lives, where decisions affecting entire industries get made, where reputations can be elevated or obliterated with surgical precision. What's emerging now isn't just vindication of your character, it's exposure to a systematic pattern of behavior that extends far beyond what they did to you. Your defender has been documenting their methods, tracking their victims, building a case that reveals you weren't their first target, and you certainly won't be their last if they're allowed to continue operating in darkness. The evidence your protector possesses paints a picture so disturbing that even neutral parties are stepping back in horror. Voice recordings where they laugh about destroying innocent people. Screenshots of group chats where they coordinate attacks on individuals who never harmed them. Email chains discussing strategies for isolating targets and driving them to emotional breakdown. This isn't casual drama, this is predatory behavior disguised as social dynamics. The overnight transformation you're witnessing isn't just about your individual situation. It's about the exposure of an entire system of abuse that operated under cover of social acceptability. Your defender recognized that what happened to you was symptomatic of something much larger, much more dangerous, much more deserving of complete destruction than simple personal vindication could address. They're not just defending your name, they're dismantling the infrastructure that made attacks like yours possible in the first place. Every person who stayed silent while you were being destroyed is now being forced to explain their complicity. Every individual who participated in spreading lies is being confronted with evidence of their involvement. Every supporter who cheered while your character was assassinated is discovering that their participation was documented, time-stamped and preserved. Your protector operates with the kind of strategic intelligence that comes from understanding warfare at levels your enemies can't perceive. They didn't rush to your defense when you were screaming for help, because they knew that timing in spiritual battles determines victory more than volume ever could. They waited for the exact moment when their intervention would cause maximum damage to the forces arrayed against you. The beauty of this divine timing reveals itself in how completely unprepared your enemies were for this level of opposition. They had grown comfortable with their ability to destroy reputations without consequence, confident that their networks provided sufficient protection from accountability. They operated under the assumption that their victims would always be isolated, always be outgunned, always be forced to fight alone against superior numbers and resources. But your defender sees warfare from perspectives that span dimensions your tormentors can't access. They recognize that your persecution wasn't just personal, it was spiritual. They understood that the forces attacking you were using human agents to accomplish objectives that transcended individual malice. Your protection required intervention that operated on frequencies matching the original attack. The person defending you now carries authority that doesn't derive from human institutions or social connections. Their power flows from sources that make earthly influence look like children playing with toy weapons. When they speak, reality itself rearranges to accommodate truth. When they act, spiritual laws that your enemies don't even know exist swing into operation with devastating effectiveness. Every tear you shed during those dark seasons was being collected as evidence in a cosmic case that your defender is now presenting with surgical precision. Your suffering wasn't meaningless, it was documentation. Every sleepless night you endured was being recorded as testimony. Every moment you questioned your own sanity while gaslighting assaulted your mind was being preserved as proof of their methods and your endurance. Your protector understands something about pain that your enemies never grasped. Authentic suffering produces strength that cannot be manufactured through any other process. The trials you survived weren't just character-building exercises, they were preparation for the kind of authority you're about to step into. Every attack that didn't break you made you more qualified for the influence you're about to wield. The person defending you recognizes that your journey through hell wasn't a detour from your destiny, it was the highway leading directly to it. They see refined gold where others see only pressure and heat. They understand that your capacity to endure injustice without becoming unjust yourself qualifies you for power that your former tormentors could never handle responsibly. Your defender isn't just clearing your name, they're positioning you for influence that extends far beyond personal vindication. They're creating platforms where your voice will be heard by audiences your enemies never imagined you could reach. They're opening doors to opportunities that will allow you to impact lives in ways that transform your pain into purpose for countless others. Your protector's intervention is creating ripple effects that extend far beyond your immediate situation. Other victims of similar attacks are finding their voices, encouraged by seeing someone with real authority finally take a stand against systematic abuse. Your vindication is becoming a catalyst for exposures that will reshape entire landscapes of influence. The person defending you operates within networks that span industries, disciplines, and spheres of influence that intersect in ways your enemies never understood. Their decision to speak for you has activated connections they didn't know existed, alliances they couldn't have predicted, support systems that operate on principles of authentic power rather than manufactured influence. The protection extending over your life now includes access to resources, opportunities, and platforms that your enemies spent considerable energy ensuring you could never reach. Every door they closed is being replaced with pathways they didn't know existed. Every bridge they burned is being rebuilt with materials they can't touch or taint. Your protector isn't just defending you, they're demonstrating what happens when divine authority decides to intervene in human affairs. The overnight transformation you're experiencing is just the beginning of a complete restructuring of power dynamics in every area where your influence will eventually extend. Hold that thought for a moment. I need your attention for something very important. We're revealing everything we know about personal power, healing yourself, and healing others through weekly Zoom call. No filters, no holding back. We have been quietly adding all the occult secrets we've collected over literal years of spiritual practice. The techniques and wisdom that transformed us from controlled pawns into conscious creators are now available to those ready to walk the same path. This is your invitation to join Obsidian Inner Order and support our platform so we can continue growing our megaphone to reach other chosen ones waiting for activation. By joining the Obsidian Inner Order, you're not just gaining access to forbidden knowledge, you're becoming part of a movement that's rewriting reality itself. It's a 360 win for all of us. Link is in the description. The story being written through your vindication extends far beyond personal satisfaction or individual justice. Your protector recognizes that your journey represents something archetypal, something that resonates with anyone who has ever been targeted by forces that traffic in lies and manipulation. Your triumph becomes their hope, your vindication becomes their evidence that truth ultimately prevails against manufactured opposition. Your defender isn't just exposing your enemies, they're creating a template for how systematic abuse gets dismantled when authentic power decides to engage. Every tactic they use, every method they employ, every strategy they implement becomes part of a playbook that others can reference when facing similar attacks. Your protector sees beyond immediate vindication to the long-term impact your story will have on how power operates in the future. They understand that your triumph will inspire others to maintain integrity under pressure, to trust truth even when lies appear to be winning, to endure injustice with the confidence that authentic authority will eventually intervene. The person defending you is creating a legacy that extends far beyond your individual experience. They're demonstrating that some forces cannot be defeated by human scheming, that some individuals cannot be destroyed by coordinated attacks, that some truths cannot be buried no matter how much effort gets invested in deception. Your emergence from this trial isn't just personal victory, it's cosmic demonstration. The chosen one who absorbed storms without breaking, who endured attacks without retaliating, who maintained dignity while surrounded by chaos, now stands as living proof that authentic power operates according to laws that make human manipulation look like children playing with shadows, while real forces move mountains behind the scenes. The overnight transformation was never about them finally recognizing your worth. It was about the universe making visible what was always true about the indestructible nature of authentic power, the ultimate triumph of truth over deception, and the inevitable victory of light over darkness when divine authority decides the time for justice has finally arrived.